All right, let's look at number 8. We want to go ahead and find our least common denominator. Looking at the numbers I have here, we know it's going to be 2k. And so for our least common denominator to be 2k, that means we're going to rewrite all of these fractions with the denominator of 2k. All right, let's come down here so we can make this neat, and I'm going to save some space in between. I've got 3 over k. I'm going to leave a little space for my new denominator. Minus 1 over 2. Again, leave some space for the new denominator beside it. And then I've got 12 over k, and I'm leaving some space. On this side, I want to write my new denominator, 2k, 2k, and 2k. Our goal is to see what we can multiply this by to make this become 2k, but whatever we multiply on this side, we multiply on the top as well. Well, you can see here that this number k divides into 2k 2 times, which means I would have to multiply k by 2. I'm going to use a different color here. So I would be taking the number 2 and I would be multiplying it times the k here, and 2 times k gives me 2k. 2 times 3 gives me 6. Here, I would have to multiply 2 times k. 2 times k gives me 2k, but then here, 1 times k gives me just 1k. This would be just multiplied by 2 again. And then if we multiply this by 2, we get 24. Now that all of our denominators are the same, we can rewrite our equation with just our numerators. So we will have 6 minus k equals 24, and just proceed to solve. I'm going to subtract my 6. This gives me negative k equals 18, but we're not going to leave the k negative. We've got to divide it by 1, negative 1. And my k is going to now equal a negative 18. Proceed to checking to see if that solution works. Okay. Oh, that line is so crooked. Let me do better than that. Still bad. When we check, we are just substituting the value negative 18 here and here. So I've got 3 over negative 18 minus 1 over 2 equals 12 over negative 18. Do yourself a favor and put it in the calculator so you can see that this does in fact work. It checks out to be true. So we've got our value of k to equal negative 18 right here. Okay. Next, we're going to look at number 10. A little bit different of a least common denominator here, but we got this. It's not too hard. First and foremost, before you start looking for a least common denominator, always remember to look for any term that can be factored that has a greatest common factor. Immediately, I see this here. It has a greatest common factor of 3. So I'm going to have to factor out a 3 from each term and rewrite this. This will now be 3 parenthesis w minus 1. Now I want to ignore this term completely, and I'm going to look at this is my denominator, this is my denominator, and this. Super easy. Get your numbers and find the least common denominator of those. My numbers are 3 and 9. If I'm finding the least common denominator, I'm listing their multiples, and multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, etc. Multiples of 9 start with 9, 18, etc. Since I see that my number in common, their least common multiple is 9, this is the number that I'm going to use in my least common denominator. So I'm using 9, but then I know their variables have to be the same. Well, I see that this has a variable w minus 1, and this one has a variable of w minus 1. So that means this one's got to have it too. This means my least common denominator is going to be 9 parenthesis w minus 1. I need all of my denominators to be this. So let's rewrite this with what we got and writing it to what we want it to be. So I've got 13 over 3 parenthesis w minus 1. And I need my new denominator to be 9 parenthesis w minus 1. I also have a 1 over w minus 1. I need my new denominator, save a little space here, to be 9 parenthesis w minus 1. And then last on this side, I have w over 9, but I am needing my new denominator to be 9 times w minus 1. From here, let's see what we got to multiply by to achieve our numerators. To go from 3w minus 1 to 9w minus 1, I'm having to multiply this 3 by 3. So if I multiply this by 3 to get 9, I'm multiplying this by 3. 13 times 3 is 39. From here, to make this match this, I'm having to multiply this entire package by 9. So then that means I'm going to multiply this by 9 as well. My new numerator is 9. Here, I've got the 9 already. What I don't have is the w minus 1. So I'm multiplying this by w minus 1 and this by w minus 1. This, when you distribute, keep in mind we have to distribute, will become w squared minus w. From here, what I have in red at the top, I'm going to bring down. I have 39 minus 9 equals w squared minus w. From here, we want to factor, so we've got to set it equal to 0. 39 minus 9 is 30. Okay, and this is still equal to w squared minus w. So get your 30 over here. Okay, the only way we can do that is by subtracting it. The only way to move it over there is to subtract it. So I'm going to minus 30 here, minus 30 here. Let's write this nice and neat. I have 0 equals w squared minus w minus 30. We have a trinomial with no greatest common factor, my table. I've got negative 30. I want to list the factors of negative 30. That will give me a negative 1. Okay, so immediately my mind goes to 5 and 6. And since I know 5 times 6 is 30, to make it a negative 30, I'm going to bring the negative sign with my 6. And thankfully, the number here is 1. So if the number here is 1, we got a shortcut. We can just take those two numbers, those two factors, and write our factorization as w plus 5 times w minus 6. Still set equal to 0. From here, I will proceed to splitting it. Set each one of them equal to 0. W plus 5 equals 0. W minus 6 equals 0. And the values of w will be negative 5 and positive 6. Of course, we need to check those values to see if they work. And to save time, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that they do work, okay? So we have our two solutions right here. All right. Let's do number 12. We'll start with this one. We want a common denominator for number 12. And to find that, we need to factor anything that can be factored so that it can look more simplistic and we can look for our denominator. So this, immediately, you got to see that this can be factored. It's got a greatest common factor of c. So when I factor the c away from those two terms, I'm going to have c minus 4 left. So instead of looking at this, I am now focused on looking at c times c minus 4. I come over to the side to do my least common denominator. My least common denominator is going to be c times c minus 4. We don't have a number aside from 1. Okay, so we just need to focus on the C minus C minus 4. I meant to say C times C minus 4. Every one of our denominators needs to be this now. So I'm going to take my original problem, come down here and write it neatly. And I'm going to save some space because I now have a new denominator that I need to turn it into. And then an equal sign, rewrite the number here, the fraction here. Save some space because I need to change it to its new denominator. And minus 1, we have our new denominator of C times C minus 4. To make this look nice and pretty like a fraction, remember there's always an understood 1 underneath here, so we can write that down. To achieve the denominator to become this from here to here, we do nothing. It's already that. So essentially, I'm multiplying by 1. Multiplying anything by 1 is not going to change the value. So I can simply just write 3C minus 2. To go from here to here, I'd have to multiply this entire term by C. If I multiply that by C, this must be multiplied by C, giving me C squared. To go from here to here, it's got to be multiplied by the entire expression, C times C minus 4. So that's going to give me C times C minus 4. And let's do this. Let's go ahead and multiply it out. Save myself a step here. When I distribute this, I will have C squared minus 4C. So let's write down what we have now that all of our denominators are the same. What I have in red is what I'm going to bring down here. And that's going to be 3C minus 2 equals C squared minus, and keep in mind there's a minus sign right here. And that minus sign is going for the collective set of the C squared minus 4. So this minus sign is going to reverse my sign here and reverse the sign here. Pay attention to that. This minus sign reverses the sign here and the sign here. Now let's do some cleaning up here. I see that these C's, I see a lot of C's going on. These are going to cancel out. That leaves me with 3C minus 2 on this side and 4C on this side. I want to subtract my 3C, and I'll have negative 2 equals just 1C. Check to see if it works, and it does, and we're done.